Hi everyone, Sean Walbin with Secure Cyber Defense, and this is your weekly video cybersecurity update. Well, we'll cover some recent vulnerabilities first, and then we'll kind of head into the cybersecurity news. Palo Alto has issued a CVSS 10 out of 10 alert for a vulnerability with their Palo Alto operating system. These video updates come out on Sunday, and currently we're recording this on Friday. As of right now, there's no patch available as of Friday. Palo Alto is indicating that these exploits or this vulnerability is being exploited currently in the wild and that they will have patches available on Sunday. We don't know what time on Sunday. Palo Alto is a West Coast organization. The vulnerability affects the Palo Alto operating system. There is a workaround that's published, so take a look at the bulletin. And if this is impacting you, you'll have to do the workaround while you're waiting for the patch. Adobe has come out with 9 product updates. None of them were critical. So if you're currently using any of the Adobe suite, take a look at those vulnerabilities and patch those as appropriate. Microsoft came out with 147 updates. 2 of those were considered ZeroDays that they were patching. The Smart Screen system was patched again, as well as the proxy driver spoofing vulnerability was patched. So 2 0-days inside of the Microsoft updates, and then 147 of those were just routine security updates. Fortinet back in the news again with the FortiClient Mac and Linux vulnerability, as well as a patch for the FortiOS operating system. In the cybersecurity news section, Cysense has come out with a compromised CISA has been publishing a lot of information about this, just generating some general awareness. If you're using Cysense, we found, at least I found in some of the research that I was doing, is that you may not be using Cysense directly, but you may have a third-party vendor that is using Cysense. So just take a look at them. They appear to be some type of software system and service that can take like multiple third-party systems and then integrate them into one. So take a look at this. If you're using them, take some action as soon as you can. And to finish off the cybersecurity news section, LastPass is actually advising that their CEO fell victim to a deep fake audio phishing attempt. So this was very interesting because this is the now second company that has come forward in advising that actually the first company fell victim. That company wasn't named, and they allegedly fell victim to, I think it was like a $20 million payout, and it was over Teams in that particular case. In this case, LastPass is reporting that one of their employees received a WhatsApp message allegedly coming from their CEO. And it didn't go through, mainly because the CEO or the employee had noticed that the CEO doesn't normally communicate with employees directly over WhatsApp, so it failed. However, it was very interesting because the article pointed out a YouTube video where the LastPass CEO, allegedly this is probably where they got the audio from for the deepfake. They posted a video, and it was like 9 months ago. It's on YouTube. And their CEO is, basically giving some type of testimonial about LastPass and why to use it, and that's likely where they got the audio. So if you think about it from a CEO perspective, and I know I'm an example of that, a lot of CEOs get in front of the camera on YouTube to do advertisements or to do customer testimonials. So it's pretty easy to grab the audio from a CEO or an executive at a company. So I just bring this up to bring attention again. Maybe have a conversation with your employees about the importance of deep fakes and how they could become, how a company could fall victim to a deep fake, because I think we're going to see that they're happening more and more. In last week's episode, I mentioned the Emergency Operations Center and the use of it for local government. I wanted to bring a segment to you now where James Fisher and I was able to sit down. James is a senior analyst inside our Security Operations Center. He's got a lot of experience in the local government space. He is a member of Ohio Task Force 1, which is the Ohio Urban Search and Rescue Team. Anyway, here's a clip of him and I just having a discussion about the EOC and why it's important. Hey everyone, Sean Waldman. I'm here with James Fisher. He's our lead cybersecurity analyst, and we're going to take some time today to talk about the Emergency Operations Center that we spoke about in the last episode. So James, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm James Fisher, the lead analyst at Secure Cyber Defense. I spent quite a bit of time in public safety and also spent some time active duty in the military.
Yep, we've both been in local government for a long time, which means we've got those battle scars. And so what brought this whole conversation up is you and I were both involved in an incident in the last year. And there was some discussion that we were having about the importance of an EOC, and you were asking me, hey, I wonder why the Emergency Operations Center wasn't activated. So why don't you just kind of go into what an EOC is and why you would use it?
So an EOC is a physical or a virtual location where you have all key decision makers in the same area so that they can make decisions when you're in the middle of a disaster, if that's cybersecurity, natural disaster, or whatever the scenario may be.
So one of the things that we've noticed, and we had during that incident that you were asking me about the EOC, we'd actually approached some administrators in that area, and we had asked the question, why didn't you activate it? And they started looking through their manuals, and they were like, well, we hadn't really considered that because it's not a flood, it's not a fire, it wasn't an earthquake, it wasn't a mass casualty event. And I think that's one of the things that people are learning, right, is that cyber incidents can trigger this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Any reduction in services. So if you operate 24/7 and you provide public safety or anything like that, those services aren't available. So you need to have those key people in that area so that they can make those decisions and work through that disaster.
Well, and one of the things that I noticed that was going on is that there were media requests coming in. So maybe having your public relations person, in the room. There were a lot of requests that were coming about, the impact on city services and, was leaf pickup going to happen and all those types of things. There were requests from the public coming where they were asking about like picking up copies of reports and things like that. So I definitely saw the benefit of having all of those key decision makers, and we actually had them all in the room that one evening when we were doing it. But certainly, what in your experience have you run into specifically where using technology in that scenario helps communication?
So whether you need to have a communication plan in place, so like, are you on radios, or is all your equipment down? Having somebody dealing with the communications, like you mentioned, the press piece, or even if you're not going to do something, that is an answer. Like, we're not going to provide this service at this time because it's not mission critical, and that's what all should be determined by that team of people.
And there were some other cyber incidents that were going on even after that. City of Pensacola got hit. We saw, and we kind of covered that a little bit here on these segments. Phone systems can be impacted. Mm-hmm. So if the public, doesn't have the ability to phone in, having radio communication to be able to, relay requests or
cell
things.
Phones.
Yep,
right?
Cell phones.
Like anything, any type of communication. Like if you're mission critical, your on-premise phone system's down or it's cloud-based, and those things aren't available. How are you going to communicate? Are you going to use email? Are you going to spin up something else, a third party? How do you do that in that scenario?
So I guess the name of the game is have a plan, right?
Absolutely, and practice, right? So not only do you have the plan, you walk through the plan periodically so that when you're in this scenario, the first time is not the first time somebody's seen it is during a disaster. So they've gone through, you do tabletop exercises, and you walk through that so key people know what to do. And also have backups for those key individuals so that when they aren't available, they're out sick, they're out of the country, whatever the case may be, that there is already a plan to have somebody else stand in. And they have fulfilled that role at some point from a training.
I actually found it was interesting. I was watching some of the media reports during the eclipse in this area, and I was noticing that Children's Medical Center had actually stood up their EOC, which was actually in their boardroom. And the state of Ohio had activated their emergency operations center as well. And the last thing I wanted to just touch on between you and I is the EMA component of this. I think it's some of you have heard me talk about this before in the past. I think it's definitely time to start opening discussions or getting deeper discussions going with emergency managers to start talking to them about their involvement with cyber emergencies. What's kind of your experience there?
Absolutely. I know from past experience with even just tornadoes and things like that, having a reduction in local equipment from a service provider such as Verizon or something like that, and getting them to bring additional equipment on site to at least temporarily restore those communications, either whether or not it's for the public or if it's for the people that are actually working the emergency.
And that's a real good point. That was something that we actually utilized Verizon's Crisis Center in order to help facilitate the communications, and that was a lifesaver. Mm-hmm. So, all right. Well, thanks, James. I appreciate your time.
No problem. Thank you.
And that's all we have for today. So I thank you for your time, and we'll see you next week.